Widely considered to be one of the greatest actors of all time, Marlon Brando transformed Hollywood forever with his innovative method acting. With the career spanning more than 6 decades and 50 films, Brando left a lasting impact on cinema. He is a singular figure in cinema history, a man whose disdain for stardom ironically redefined what it meant to be one. So with such a broad and varied career to celebrate, we've ranked what we believe are the 10 best performances from his remarkable and diversified filmography.
So you wouldn't remember me as not being honest.
Number 10. Mark Antony, Julius Caesar. This film was released at a time when Orson Welles' expressionist adaptations of Macbeth and Othello had changed the perception of how radically a literary work could be adapted for the screen. Directed by Joseph L. Mankiewicz, Julius Caesar is somewhat of an overlooked gem from the 1950s, but it's mostly remembered for being one in a series of terrific films that announced the arrival of Marlon Brando. Playing the role of Mark Antony, Brando makes his proper appearance in the wake of Caesar's death. At his funeral, Antony delivers a speech with such fervor that Brutus's reasons for killing Caesar pale in comparison to Antony's evocation of sentiment. Brando measures every turn in his audience's heart, he screams with vigor, and he weeps with deceit. Every sound and move is painstakingly measured. Through his stares and gestures, he proves himself to be a far more cunning politician than Brutus ever imagined. As Antony, Brando delivers one of the play's most famous monologues with such precision and passion that it landed him his 3rd Oscar nomination.
I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is often interred with their bones, so let it be with Caesar.
Number 9. Johnny Strabler, The Wild One. The setting of a small, dreary town where the arrival of a group of outlaws causes mayhem means that The Wild One is really just a western in disguise. Marlon Brando's iconic look from the film with his leather jacket, sideburns, and tilted cap has remained one of cinema's most enduring symbols of style and swagger. Inspiring the likes of Elvis Presley and Alex Turner of Arctic Monkeys, Brando's charm is off the charts. His performance is hardly different from that of a cowboy. As Johnny Strabler, he is not entirely an admirable character, but his charisma shines through. He's aware of the importance of Johnny's style, his walk, and postures, and deliberately allows it all to define the character's appearance. Throughout his career, Brando perfected the ability to play morally conflicted characters who had full hearts that made them empathetic and warm. Johnny is one of the earliest and best examples of this. A reluctant leader who has to reevaluate his beliefs and learn what it truly means to stand up for what he believes in, it was with this performance that Brando officially became an American heartthrob.
A picnic, man, you are too square. I have to straighten you out. Now listen, you don't go any one special place. That's cornball style. You just go.
Number 8. Kid Rio, One-Eyed Jacks. Aside from embodying the main character, One-Eyed Jacks is also the only film Brando ever directed. In this sprawling western, he plays the role of Rio, a bank robber bent on revenge against his former partner in crime. Brooding and romantic, Rio is the last and perhaps most tender of the iconic outsiders that the great actor imbued with such intensity throughout his career. Capturing both the beauty of its desert landscapes and the swaggering charisma of its lead, critical reception toward the film may have been mixed, but no one can deny how well it showcases the complexity of Brando's talents. From the moment he appears on screen, Rio is not shown to be one who enjoys violence like his comrades. For him, it's purely a means of survival, both in the world and in his chosen way of life. Brando is not exactly sympathetic as an individual as he distances himself from an emotional performance and instead presents himself as a product of unfortunate circumstances. However, his portrayal of a resolute cowboy became a template for anti-heroic Western characters to follow, not the least being those played by Clint Eastwood.
Get up, you scum-sucking pig.
Number 7. Robert E. Lee Clayton, The Missouri Breaks. This Western from director Arthur Penn is a bit of a bizarre creation, one that oscillates between pure comedy and moments of real threat and violence. Unlike a lot of Westerns of the era, there isn't a lot of violence in The Missouri Breaks. Not to say that the movie is non-violent, it's actually quite the contrary, but it keeps its share of violent imagery swift and to the point. The cast includes the likes of Jack Nicholson and Harry Dean Stanton playing smugglers whose attempts at a heist are thwarted by their intended victim's employment of a peculiar regulator named Robert E. Lee Clayton. Brando evidently enjoyed every minute of playing this role. His eccentric portrayal of an Irish-American mercenary is among his most curious characters. He's flamboyant and extremely articulate, speaking in a tone and pitch that makes a character naturally guess he's a preacher.
Get hands off! Go, you and realize the fact that as a result of that, this poor man has lost his life. And if you'd invited me into the neighborhood before, it wouldn't have happened.
There's a childlike sense of mischief about him, yet he also fosters a thirst for immense violence. Interestingly, Penn frames a lot of shots from Clayton's perspective, as if to make him the character we ought to be rooting for. And because Brando portrays him with such a rakish flair, the audience just might consider it. Number 6. Emiliano Zapata, Viva Zapata. This was Brando's second film with director Elia Kazan following his breakout performance in 1951's A Streetcar Named Desire. Telling a fictionalized account of the life of Mexican revolutionary Emiliano Zapata, the biopic follows the leader from his peasant upbringing through his rise to power in the early 1900s, culminating in the 1919 ambush that resulted in his death. Capturing how ordinary men, through actions and resolutions, transcend their physical presence and are elevated to the status of legend, the film earned Marlon Brando the Best Actor award at the Cannes Film Festival and his second Oscar nomination. Brando is clearly in tune with Zapata's status. He's incapable of being corrupted, and he inspires the viewer in the same way that Zapata inspires his followers. He has a strong sense of determination from the moment he first appears amongst peasants, and it never fades away. Of course, given the background of the man he's playing, it is the kind of performance that would be looked down upon today. Marred by weird and distracting hair and makeup and an unnatural accent, these physical features tend to hinder what is otherwise a thoughtful and measured performance. But it's a testament to Brando's talent and abilities that even when he's not at his best, he still delivers an overall incredible performance.
In the name of all we fought for, I'm going.
I won't go with you.
I don't expect you to.
Number 5. Valentine Snakeskin Xavier, The Fugitive Kind. One of Sidney Lumet's lesser-known films, The Fugitive Kind places Marlon Brando back in the familiar world of a Tennessee Williams melodrama.
What is this? A human wrist with a bone? Feels like a twig.
Brando stars as Valentine Snakeskin Xavier, a drifter who floats in and out of jail. He stars opposite the magnificent Anna Magnani, who has the central role as an aging woman seeking freedom from a diabolical marriage. Against Magnani leaning between optimism and despair, Brando becomes the anchor holding her in place. Unlike most of his previous roles, he rarely imposes himself during a scene. He's quiet and resigned, perfectly attuned to the malaise of a young man with seemingly no place in history. His insistence on changing himself is an excellent combination of determined intent underlined with self-doubt. It's a role easy to overlook because of its subdued nature and also because it's a supporting role, but it's just as crucial a role in depicting Brando's dedication to character and demonstrating the diversity of his body of work. Number 4. Napoleon Bonaparte, Desiree. Desiree is a 1954 biographical film that examines how worldly ambitions destroy domestic peace. In it, Marlon Brando plays the role of French political and military leader Napoleon Bonaparte. In essence, the film is about Desiree, a woman who wins the heart of Napoleon but is forbidden from being with him. It makes for an interesting exploration of gender politics during the revolutionary and post-revolutionary periods of France, and what it meant to be headstrong as opposed to being meek like Desiree's sisters. As the legendary general, Brando keeps his chin lowered and he never looks up at anyone.
I have come from a land where men crawl under their dead comrades to keep warm.
A technique that allows him to effectively realize Napoleon's towering arrogance. He struts with a certain theatricality, as if every step he takes, every pose he strikes, is corresponding to paintings of Napoleon depicting him in all his glory. It's easily amongst Brando's most insightful performances, one that mixes pomp and realism in equal measure, creating a most unique interpretation of Napoleon. Number 3. Don Vito Corleone, The Godfather. This part was offered to the volatile Brando at a time when he wanted nothing to do with acting. Paramount didn't want him, believing he was too expensive and too unpredictable to associate with. But screenwriter Mario Puzo had imagined him as the Don all along, and director Francis Ford Coppola was adamant on casting him. Knowing that an actor of Brando's nature would not agree to do a screen test, the two arranged to trick Brando into it, calling him in for a makeup test while secretly filming him all the while. He got into character almost instantly, the studio heads were pleased, and the rest is history. Although some members of production never believed the film would get finished, The Godfather released in 1972 and was instantly heralded as one of the greatest films of all time. Playing a good 15 years older than he really was, Brando famously wore a padded suit, dyed his hair with shoe polish, and stuffed cotton balls in his cheeks. He became Vito Corleone, the Don of a New York mob family facing new competition and struggling to maintain power in a changing world. The beauty of Brando's performance is his ingenuity as an actor. He brilliantly and subtly portrays Vito as a man full of intelligence and warmth, with plenty of kindness and generosity for those who respect him, and an equal amount of ruthlessness for those who do not. With his quiet and commanding delivery, Brando created one of the most iconic characters in cinema history.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
Delivering him his second and final Oscar.
Marlon Brando in The Godfather.
However, he infamously boycotted the ceremony due to Hollywood's poor history of Native American representation, sending Native American activist Sacheen Littlefeather in his place to reject an Academy Award for the role that revived his career.
That he very regretfully cannot accept this very generous award.
Number 2. Terry Malloy, On the Waterfront. Reuniting Brando with Elia Kazan for the third time, On the Waterfront's portrayal of corruption in New Jersey's longshoremen unions was a revolutionary moment in the history of American cinema. Taking inspiration from Italian neorealism and even French poetic realism, Kazan made a film that was poetry and brutal reality in equal measure, with Brando's performance leading the entire thing. Next to Vito Corleone, Terry Malloy may be Marlon Brando's most famous role. It was this performance that shined a light on the lives of blue-collar individuals and the desperation that governs their world in a way that had never been accomplished before. It has one of the most famous lines in cinema history, but to actually witness Brando deliver it is still a shockingly moving and transformative experience for the audience. As Terry, Brando convincingly and tenderly portrays someone who gave up a promising career to please his brother, only to question his sacrifices.
You don't understand. I could have had class. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody. Instead of a bum, which is what I am. Let's face it.
It's a performance of such paralyzing power that one will either be glued to Brando even when he's showing his back, or not notice anything because of the effortless ease with which he portrays the character. The performance is never theatrical or over the top, but unceasingly empathetic, and after 4 consecutive nominations, it finally earned Brando a much-deserved first Oscar. Before moving on to our number 1 pick, let's take a look at some honorable mentions. Sky Masterson, Guys and Dolls. If Kazan introduced us to the genius of Brando, Mankiewicz was instrumental in depicting his theatricality.
Luck be a lady tonight.
This film sees him take on a different type of role entirely as the romantic lead in a musical. While he goes for a more extravagant presentation than what he's known for, he doesn't let go of his own style. In Guys and Dolls, Brando once again plays a morally ambiguous character, but he does so with a subtle charm and swagger, making this an understated star role. Stanley Kowalski, A Streetcar Named Desire. This is a story that has been analyzed and dissected by critics for more than 70 years. The themes of feminine empowerment, social disorder, and relationship toxicity are perhaps more timely today than they've ever been before. Brando's very first appearance on screen in A Streetcar Named Desire alone shook the foundations of film acting that had existed up until then.
Hey, Stella!
After all, Brando had been performing the iconic part of Stanley Kowalski for nearly 3 years in the Broadway adaptation, so it had to be perfect. Number 1. Paul, Last Tango in Paris. Last Tango in Paris is Bernardo Bertolucci's enigmatic tale about a curious sexual relationship ignited between a middle-aged widower and a young Frenchwoman. With Brando's Paul recovering from his wife's sudden and unexpected suicide, and Maria Schneider's Jean dealing with anxiety about her upcoming wedding, the film slowly morphs into an exploration of identity and memory in a dreamlike world. The film was controversial at the time of its release due to its graphic depiction of sexuality, but in spite of the issues surrounding the film, Brando delivers a moving portrayal of a confused, hurt, and abusive man. In such a powerful and emotionally charged picture, it's hard to tell whether the man at the center of it all is worth caring for or if he's a repulsive monster. Brando embodies the unpredictability and mysterious nature of the film itself, shifting between outbursts of explosive rage and sudden outbreaks of tears. It's as layered as any of his other characters, but his commanding ability to portray debilitating grief makes this one of the rawest performances ever captured on film. So, these were our picks for the top 10 performances from Marlon Brando. From dramas to thrillers, romances to westerns, Brando really did it all, and he transformed cinema in the process. So what do you think about this list? Comment down below to tell us which of your favorite Marlon Brando performances we've left out.